This is my computer. I use it for average, everyday things like work, keeping in touch with friends, listening to music, and even sometimes binge-watching Netflix. Other people use computers to build and program cars that can drive themselves. They can anticipate and avoid hazards along the road. Computers can produce images that tell us in real time what parts of the brain a person is using. They can even be used to build prosthetic arms that give an amputee back their sense of touch and movement. Technology is mind-blowing, but only because of what's inside. Not the actual physical components, although those are pretty amazing too. I'm talking about the code, the series of ones and zeros that tell the computer what to do and how to process things. That code is responsible for every single function a computer performs. And if one of those lines of code isn't true, if even one digit is out of place, the whole program falls apart and ceases to function properly. The same can be said of us. Honesty is like our source code, keeping our relationships humming along smoothly. We define honesty as this: choosing to be truthful in whatever you say and do. This definition of honesty has to do with the core of our relationships. It's important to help kids understand how honesty builds trust, and trust builds relationships. But dishonesty, especially over time, can be destructive. You have the potential to help a child understand how living a life that is truthful can affect them relationally and personally. The Bible gives us plenty of examples where this has gone wrong, and we'll look at some of those, but we'll also take a look at 2 verses that illustrate the good that can come from a life of honesty. In 2 Kings 5, we find the prophet Elisha and his servant named Gehazi at a moment when Gehazi saw Elisha turn down a gift. Gehazi decided that he could take advantage of the situation and take the gift for himself. He went behind Elisha's back, denied his own actions, and inevitably lost Elisha's trust. We want kids to know that being truthful isn't just about telling the truth. It's about the relationship with the person on the other side of that truth. You see, when you're not truthful, you lose trust. Next, we'll take a look at David's life, just before he became king. In 1 Samuel 21, we find David on the run from a jealous King Saul. David is out by himself, with no supplies and no weapons to defend himself. He ends up in the presence of Ahimelech, and in order to convince Ahimelech to help, David tells him he's on a secret mission from the king. Ahimelech gives David food and a sword, and sends him on his way. When Saul finds out what has happened, he has Ahimelech's fellow priests slaughtered, and many innocent men, women, and children from Ahimelech's village are also killed in the aftermath. When you're not truthful, you hurt others. In week 3, we'll head to the familiar story of Esther and Haman. Haman has just been promoted as the king's most important advisor. But there's one man who won't bow down to him: Mordecai. Haman is so angry that he vows to destroy not just Mordecai, but all of his fellow Jewish people. So Haman goes straight to the king and claims the Jews are dangerous and have to be wiped out. At first, the king believes what Haman is saying is truth. But little does Haman know that Mordecai has family in high places. Queen Esther risks everything to save her people. And once her plan with Mordecai is set in motion, Haman's plot is found out. And then Haman is actually put to death via the plans he had for Mordecai. Haman really found out the hard way that when you lie to help yourself, you hurt yourself instead. We'll close the month out with a verse that John wrote in his letter to the church. 1 John 1:9 says, "But God is faithful and fair. If we confess our sins, He will forgive our sins. He will forgive every wrong thing we have done. He will make us pure." It's important to be honest with everyone, but it's even more important to be honest with God. God already knows what's on our hearts, but He still wants to hear from us, even when it's just to confess the times we've messed up. When we choose to tell God what's on our hearts, even though He already knows it, it brings us closer to Him. Our memory verse tells us that being honest comes much easier when you're an honest person and live your life with integrity. Proverbs 10:9 says this: "Anyone who lives without blame walks safely, but anyone who takes a crooked path will get caught." Honesty and integrity are a really big deal. When those around us know that they can trust what we say and do, our relationships grow stronger. And the opposite is true as well. God has proven time and time again throughout history that He is a God who can be trusted. And we want to help kids learn to live lives that reflect all aspects of the character of God, especially when it comes to honesty.